All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria. Nigerians are being asked to make sacrifices, and families are adjusting, and businesses are also adapting, and every day citizens are told that difficult economic decisions today will create a better tomorrow. But whatever citizens are asked to tighten their belts, one question naturally follows: is government doing the same? Because accountability is not just about collecting taxes, it's not just about introducing reforms, it's also about how public money is being spent. So recently, the federal government introduced new spending controls and accountability measures for ministers and senior public officers. There are new limits, new tracking systems, and of course, new promises of transparency. But the question Nigerians are asking is simple: will these reforms change anything, or are citizens once again being asked to trust a system they are yet to see fully working? Again, I welcome you to another interesting edition of Real Talk with Kiki. I remain your executive producer, your convener, the chief host of this platform. My name remains Atanda-Owo. I think it's important for us to hear what On This Day in History segment has for us. When I return, I give my 2 cents on it. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Today, June 9th, Abdul Salam Abubakar, on this day in 1998 to be precise, or will I say Major General Abdul Salam Abubakar, yes, that's the way to be introduced, how to introduce him, was sworn in, as Nigeria's head of state following the sudden death of General Sani Abacha. His administration, would later outcomes or outsee one of the Nigerian most important democratic transition. And perhaps today's reminder is simple: public trust is built when leadership demonstrates accountability and not just authority. And let me use this medium also, since today is On This Day in History is reminding us of remarkable milestone that took place. Let me use this medium to also wish my first fruits, Ilemaki Zion, an happy birthday, and for being a good child, for being a child who has, been a representation of myself and my own. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Let's go straight into it. The federal government says it is strengthening accountability in public service, and effective from August 1st, 2026, the federal government has also dropped the monthly, reimbursable imprest for ministers at 700,000 naira as part of a broader push for financial discipline. New impress also limits was also introduced. Electronic transaction tracking, of course, dedicated operational accounts as well. Stricter procurement controls. On paper, it sounds like a serious attempt to improve, financial discipline. But Nigerians have heard promises of accountability before, and many citizens are asking, will these measures truly reduce waste and abuse, or simply create new rules without changing old habits? Will this also help government, in terms of spending and public trust? Is accountability finally taking shape in Nigeria? Is the question I will be bringing to fore. But to help us, to help me break this down, I'm being joined by Mukhtar Mohammed, a product and finance specialist, a capital markets analyst, business strategist. And before I go into real talk with him, I think it's important for us to play his profile for the public to see. And when I return, I'll be speaking directly with him. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Let me use this medium to quickly usher in my guest, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed. It's a pleasure to have you on Real Talk with Kike today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was so excited to have you back because I know that this time around, you're not in a hurry to go anywhere. So we are all settled here to lend your voice on issues that affect us. But let's dive straight to the issue at hand, because I want to start from my opening when I did an opening regarding government that says that new measures are being designed to improve, accountability and the financial discipline of us in this country. So from your own assessment or perspective, is this a meaningful reform or simply just a better way of managing existing procedures, or managing how to, maneuver all the lapses, so to speak. And what's your take on this?
The first thing we have to ask ourselves, was there really a procedure before?
Okay, good question.
So if there was a procedure before, are you improving that procedure? Or are you just trying to play to the gallery? Because people are complaining that things are hard. And you are releasing impress of almost millions to legislators. So for me, that is the biggest challenge that we have. Not really about if that's the right thing to be done, whether they have actually done the right thing. Again, it's another thing. But in this country, the challenge we always have is that we always have leaders that come in to do their own thing their way, not really creating a structure. What we are doing now, is it a structure? Is it going to be a structure that will act, that will be in existence, and then you tend to improve it? Because in any company that you have before now, there are always procedures. Are we improving? Like I said, are we improving it, or are we even increasing it? Is that really the excessive in terms of financial recklessness? Is that really the place to look at, or are we just playing to the gallery?
Yeah, I even like the fact that you've answered asking that we just playing to the gallery, because a lot of Nigerians have heard the word impress, and hearing it this week, I just said, many don't actually think that it means anything to be, let's keep it real on this platform. That's the reason why this platform works. But what exactly is impress? For those who are watching us right now, who do not even understand what that word means, what does government even use that for? Use it for, and why has it become, important that we are bringing it on board right now, when the public are actually seeking for accountability? Because accountability is a major conversation on the streets out there. What's your take on this with the word
impress? Is in a layman language, is money that you give that you can spend. And sometimes people will say it's money that you give you can spend, and you might not account for it. So it depends. But in structural organizations, you must account for impress, because what happened about impress is, let me use their own case now, they have brought the impress to about 700,000. So what it means is that every month, they didn't specify it, or they didn't tell whether it's a year, but at least impress is always a monthly thing to running of the office of the MD.
Like a miscellaneous.
Like a miscellaneous. So ordinarily, what it means is 700,000 every month. And what that means that for you to get the next 700,000, you're supposed to make a return of how you spend the previous 700,000. But you and I know, even in corporate settings, it's sometimes difficult to even come and say, oh, give me the impress of my office, how I spend it. I give it on the 1st of January, then at the 1st of February, I need a new impress. You don't ask me how I spend it. It's more or less like the minister's own way of security votes, whereby, in the government, the governors don't tell you how they spend their security votes. How they spend it is up to them. They don't have to give an account for that. I think so. The same thing with this impress, the way I'm saying it, from where I'm saying it.
I hear you loud and clear, but one thing has confused, many people, or many Nigerians. Some reports suggested that, government was cutting spending, for people who do not actually have a better understanding of what the issue of impress means. While some reports initially, framed this as a slash. And official records also from the 2026, annual general impress warrants that indicate that this is just, actual 133%. I don't know if you followed it through at the time in terms of, increase from the previous caps of 300,000 naira, adjusted to reflect the current economic realities. So this really, if you ask me, is really a spending of, I don't know whether it's reduction or is it something tighter in terms of government's, regulations and spending. If you are saying increments right now, some people are listening. I'm sorry that I have to personalize it a little bit, because when government actually are also increasing things from 300,000 naira to 700,000 naira, checking their books and balances, many homes, including parents, they understand, also need to understand that increment needs to come for some fathers who are out there, who are irresponsible, who are supposed to also look for how to actually check the balances with the economy of today. If government can do it, that means many organizations, many parents out there also needs to do the checks and balances to get to this, you know, the reality of the economy of
no. I tend to argue that now because again, parents, not all parents are earning what government is earning. Okay. So some what we are saying is that if you're a civil servant, your earning has not gone up for the past. I mean, since Tinubu came, when they increased it to about minimum wage level
to 70,000.
70,000. So your salary has not gone up. So I wonder where we will get the money to increase whatever we are giving to our wives and children to go to school. A lot of parents are even withdrawing their children from the school because they
go and put them in public school
because they don't have the money.
To put them in public school. So how does those kind of parents?
Exactly. So what we are seeing here, we are seeing government being reckless in the fact that government is increasing their own expenditure to the detriment of the ordinary Nigerian on the street. So definitely we need to look at it. But you and I know that this now, the challenge I have now is that this is a recurrent expenditure. It's not a one-off expenditure.
Yes.
And the challenge we have had in government thus far is because we do too much recurrent expenditure. And recurrent expenditure, there's always money for recurrent expenditure in any government, whether Tinubu government, whether Jonathan government, whether Buhari government. But where they always go to borrow is for capital project that will have impact on every Nigerian life. But when it comes to recurrent expenditure, of allowances, they always have it. They have a way of increasing it and it's available. But when it comes to capital project that will touch the life of ordinary Nigeria, they will tell you they have to borrow. So for me, we're already complaining about the numbers in cabinet. So now calculate what will happen for every minister, where that increment.
So where is the government getting this money from, if I may ask? If you are saying government, there's no increment, this is just a, we can put out all sorts of arguments or perspective out there, but you and I know the truth. So we must help the listeners who are watching us right now.
Where is the government getting the money from?
Yes, where did they get it? Because government says all impress, holders must now use dedicated operational accounts, for electronic transactions, or electronic tracking. How significant is that, and how can technology right now truly reduce all those leakages in public spending? Because however we look at it, there's always leakages in public spending. If we like, let's make excuses for them. Oh, this and this is just one expenditure, is a continuous expenditure and all of that. They know how to do the checks and balances of their books. How do we even move forward from here? Is it just to the gallery, or is this where we now have to hold them accountable to the topic at hand?
Ordinarily, it would have given room for accountability, because if you want to be accountable financially in any organization, you use technology, because that means I can really track whatever you are doing. How much was given to you, then I can track it. But you know that when it comes to governance in this country, despite the Freedom of Information Bill, can I walk to the minister's office and say, Mr. Minister, I learned that you have 700,000 naira for impress every month. Can I have a breakdown of how this money was spent? Nobody will give me. Rather, they will call the police to arrest me, and maybe I'm doing bullying the minister. So definitely, for me, it is not accountability. Maybe accountability in the sense that in government now, that could be a tool to deal with anybody that become an opposition tomorrow. Because when you were a minister, you did not give account, you collected 700,000, you were supposed to give account of it, you did not give account of it, you were there for 1 year, they will go after you. Ordinarily, this should also be where the Economic and Financial Crime Commission will be able to track whatever is happening. Say, okay, this is how these monies are spent. Are they spent judiciously? Because it's going through an electronic process. But I don't think any of what I'm saying would definitely happen, because again, like I said, policies are only implemented by strong men in Nigeria. Policies are not implemented because it's the right thing to do. Once a strong man comes in, he will stick by the rule, he will follow the rule in everything. When he goes, he's no more there, we are back to status quo. sometimes unfortunately worse off than where we are. So if we are doing this, is it a structure that will be put in place that is going to outlive this administration? Is it a policy document? And how do the people hold them accountable? Because you're coming up with a policy document. The policy document should also tell us how we can hold them accountable if they are not going by the policy document.
Many thanks for that submission right there. And let's be honest, because we must always keep it real on this platform. Many Nigerians have become skeptical, of government reforms. This is not the first time we are hearing all sorts of reforms that have been brought to fore. What would government now do differently now with the topic at hand, with the issue at hand? Do you think that it's convincing enough for citizens to think that, this accountability now is the change that we are actually, expecting, or there will be any form of improvement in this area?
Well, we'll see that because, in this country, the civil servants know more than you and I sitting here.
Sure.
So we should begin to, as time goes on, trust Nigerians will begin to know whether they are accountable or not. Those expenditure voucher, will be seeing it on the social media platform or whatever. Or, like I said, if the Economic and Financial Crime Commission are doing what they ought to do, or the ICPC, then definitely that's the only place that we have the means to hold them accountable. If I'm working in an office, do I have the guts to write to ICPC or EFCC to say my minister is spending recklessly the 700,000 that were given to him? And do they have also the political will to arrest that minister and say, query him and say, or, ordinarily there are procedures. Can I write a letter to the office of the secretary to the government of the federation and say I'm seeing reckless spending from my minister, from the interest of every 700,000 every month? So those are things that we will need to get before we know that whether this policy is working. But if we are silent about it, what happened in Nigeria when we set up a policy and everybody is silent, everybody thinks the policy is working smoothly until that minister or that PAMSEC or that director leaves the office. Now we are only talking about ministers, 700,000. We are impressed. We are not talking about impressed to directors, impressed to permanent secretaries. How much is their own impress? Is it the same thing with the ministers? Are their own also be increased? All these are things that if we are a government that is accountable, we must, like you say, we must keep it real and let people know we come to the table with an open hand.
All right, many thanks for that submission thus far. We'll go on a quick break to get a word from my sponsors. When I return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. If you are just tuning in, this is Real Talk with Kiki, and of course, I've been speaking with Mr. Mohammed, product and finance specialist, capital market analyst, and of course, the business strategies of many platforms and all of that. In the first half, I've examined the government's new spending control. We have examined the government's spending control and what impress really means, and whether these reforms represents genuine accountability or simply better administrative processes. Now we will take it further, we'll take the conversation further to another level, or I want to go deeper because of how I would like to find a balance to the conversation at hand. But before I do that, I think it's important for me to open the phone lines for those who are watching us across the states in Nigeria. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number that will be showing on your screen in the next few minutes. And of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, both on Real Talk with Kike platform and on Silverbird, platform. And I must say thank you so much for all that you have shared thus far. But let's dive straight to another perspective that I would like to bring to fore, because I feel that Nigeria does not necessarily lack regulations. What many people ask or say is that we lack accountability, and we've touched on the accountability earlier in the first segment of the show. So what mechanism do you think must exist with these new rules and regulations right now, to just for us to be able to navigate that financial aspect of the government personnel, so to speak, and how we can actually find a balance so that certain things are not being ignored and doesn't look like it's just a gallery thing, that things are still as as it is. What's your take on this?
I think ordinarily there should be an audit process in every office.
Okay.
So that is what we get for. Do we have auditing process in some of these offices and ministries? And definitely they are, because if you are a ministry, then you have an accounting department. So what is the auditing processes? Are this money just released? Ordinarily, they are supposed to be actually come back to process and structures for the money to be approved. So when this money are given, are you just giving it because the minister says you should give him 700,000, or 700,000 will be given through the process and accountability will come through the process? Don't forget that this money will not go directly to the minister, it goes to his aide, and the minister would get the money from his aides and use the money. So what is this money really being used? Does the minister consume the 700,000 a month? And so if he doesn't finish it, do we just say because he didn't finish it, we'll give him another 700,000? So those are things that should be done by the audit department. So there must be an audit process for you to release that money. And like you said, I can categorically tell you that those processes are there. Now it is whether they are being followed. Because again, do I want to follow the process and be in the bad book of the minister? Or will I want to be in the good book of the minister, which means I just say, take it, Mr. Minister, this is for you. Even before the end of the month, I'm asking his aid, you have not written for your money because I want to be in the good book of the minister. So that, for me, is the major challenge we are faced in Nigeria, because we don't have a structured system where people are accountable to the state rather to the personnel. So what you see loyalty to the person in authority rather than loyalty to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Many thanks for that. And I know that at a time when citizens are actually dealing with inflation right now, and rise of living rise of living costs as well. And what should Nigerians, or what should governments, maybe not Nigerians, that prioritize more? Is it reducing waste? Is it increasing transparency? Or is it just demonstrating value for money? Because many times when many Nigerians worry about major leakages from contract and procurements, do this reform actually address that bigger spending challenges, without me not using the word problems right now in government? Or are they just focusing mainly on operational expenses? What's your take on this?
Ordinarily should, because again, if I'm coming out with a process, I must have looked at that there must have been recklessness. So I'm trying to streamline it to make people accountable. So definitely that is why I'm coming out with the process. So it should be something that we'll celebrate. It's taking care of excessive leakages and also trying to streamline expenditure based on value. But now the whole point we still go back is, what value are we trying to create? Are we trying to really create a real value, or we are just trying to play to the gallery to make people feel that, oh, government is not wasteful? We are putting the process. And again, no matter the process you put, if there is no repercussion for faulting that process, then that process has not yet come. What is the penalty if you are caught wanting in those processes? Does it just go unchecked because it's coming from the office of the minister? Or they will not say no? Because any process only works when there is accountability, and there's also, under the accountability, there is also punishment or reward for how those processes were well implemented.
Many thanks again. With what you have shared thus far, how should ordinary Nigerians now measure, success here? Because when you are saying that, what value are we trying to create? Okay, how do we also measure success? What should citizens look for in the next 6 to, 12 months to know whether these accountability measures are working? Because we must strip it down, sir. We must strip it down, strip it, you know, let's strip it, maybe everything away from all the drama and the grammar and the likes and all of it. Can reforms like this genuinely restore public trust? I think that's the question we should be asking ourselves.
Ordinarily, it should restore, but how do we as citizens know that public stores are being restored? Now, the 700,000 impress, we also have to carry the government entourage, the numbers of cars that are going with them and everything. So me as a person or other Nigerians, I want to see how this works, whereby on the road now, when I see my minister going for a function, I'm seeing my minister in his car and then maybe one escort. But if I'm still seeing my minister or even my commissioner or even my government official that is going, and we still have convoy of 22 cars, of 12 cars or 10 cars, it doesn't make any sense. So there's no any, we are with business as well, so nothing has changed. So impress of 700,000 in a month, you and I know that fueling alone could take half of that money.
Fueling alone will even take more than that money, which is what I was trying to buttress earlier when I'm saying that, you know, when the government are saying, oh, when you said that the amount for the regular citizens at the government has a 70,000 naira, and the civil servant and all of that. But I think that this should lead to my next question regarding trust, because will trust only return when citizens actually begin to see visible improvements in government or and maybe service delivery. What's your take on it? Because
both,
I feel
both. Yeah. Because trust will return, like I said, 700,000 cannot take a convoy of 12 cars alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I see it, then I will see that there's financial prudence. When I see my minister is coming to an event and he's coming alone with his security guard, and he said that's how he came, and then I said, wow, that means he's now beginning to use his real impress. So that means he's not getting money anywhere. So he has to cut his excessive. So that is when trust will come. That's when I will now look at. But if things are, if you say you have reduced it, and you have made sure it's 700,000 in a month.
All right. And apologies, I have to interrupt your thought process. I'm being told that we have a caller from Abuja. Told you from calling. Told you many times. What's your contribution on the topic at hand? Are you there? Okay. Unfortunately, I cannot hear. I can't get that. It's not audible enough. All right, so I think I understand your perspective thus far, but what's your final note on this issue before we move to the last segment of the show regarding all that has been shared, you know, in terms of finding balance with the government, the citizens, and of course, you know, the trust issue that have become a culture with the people in the corridor of power?
Government should mark their decision with actions. Let's see how prudent government is with citizens' resources. And citizens also must begin to look at government and hold them accountable. It's not the time because...
We've been holding them accountable.
No, we are not doing because...
We've been holding them accountable for a while.
No, it may be very few. Because what we see is that once somebody is a government official and he is from my locality, what I begin to look at is what is he doing for my locality and what is he doing for himself. So to impress me, the first thing he does, you see that a person that was staying in a 3-bedroom flat now is now building a mansion in his village or to his community where he stays. So those are things that if you see that, then you need to begin to hold them accountable. That's what I mean. We are not holding them. Sometimes we hold them accountable in the public space. You just talk about what you want to talk. Then when you meet them privately, you hail them and say, oh, it's my own turn to have been able to see my councillor, I've been able to see my minister, is going to wet my hand. So until we go beyond that and begin to look at, if you are a minister, if your impress is 700,000, if your salary is this, how do you afford to drive a Lex of 600 as your ministerial official car? How? How much is a Lex of 600? Conservative is about 250 million. So how were you able to get 250 million
to afford that?
To afford that in a ministry that is
kind
struggling.
Of lifestyle.
Yes, in a ministry that is struggling to pay allowances or even struggling to pay salary. And you are not just having one of those cars in your entourage. We are having a 600.
Like 3 or 4 cars.
You are having a Land Cruiser, and all these are latest cars. So those are things that we need to begin to ask. Once you see that, definitely, you know, there's no public accountability.
Yeah, many thanks for lending your voice on issues that affect us all. But I think before I move to the last segment, let me just put my thoughts into one with all that you have shared thus far, because you know what you have done right now is to throw a lot of insight and help us understand the issues, you know, beyond government spending, you know, in terms of accountability and public trust. And I must say thank you so much for being here today on this platform, for spending your lunchtime with us, you know. But before we move on, let's, you know, also let me re-emphasize that, you know, government says accountability is improving, but citizens says proof, you know, matters more than promises. And that's one of the things that our guests today have actually emphasized on. And in the end, trust is not built by just new rules, it's built by visible, you know, results. And accountability is not about announcing controls. And I think that that's you know, most of our takeaway from the conversation at hand right now. On this note, let's go on a quick break, you know, to get a word from my sponsors. When I return, we'll move to the last segment of the show, where I have a voice to actually, you know, where I can lend my voice on the issue at hand as well as a host. Stay with me, I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Moving on to the last segment of the show, where I call my take. You know, this is where I give out my own editorial thought process on the trending stories, you know, across the states in Nigeria. And the only trending story I'll be touching on right now is the NLC and NUC trend that threatens, you know, nationwide strike over a rising insecurity. And honestly, Nigerians, or would I say Nigeria, my country, where do we even start from? Because from the topic at hand today, the only thing we avoided is the insecurity. And I feel that insecurity also affects so many other aspects, including the financial aspect that we just, you know, threw a lot of light on. But mentally, many of us are exhausted from constantly dealing with insecurity in the news. You know, it's overwhelming, especially for people like us who have no choice but to talk about it and touch on it and watch certain, you know, content that affect us mentally. Even on social media, almost every feed is about insecurity, adoption, killings, you know, and attacks, and it's becoming, you know, emotionally draining for citizens, for us as journalists, you know, for, you know, a lot of broadcasters out there, you know, coming to the trending story at hand. You know, the trade union, you know, Congress, that's the TUC, is threatening a nationwide strike over the rising insecurity, like I said earlier, in the country, Nigeria. And looking at this issue, I want to examine it from three perspectives. Where am I coming from? The impact on Nigerians, the impact on the federal government, and the likely reaction and consequences of the issue at hand. Because by every standard, this is a demand that both the TUC and the TLC, you know, could have raised much, you know, earlier, whatever, right now, whatever affects the citizens, you know, and the masses should be among the highest priorities for both the federal government and, of course, the state government. But that being said, I often reflect on the fact that when, you know, we fail to address the root causes of the challenges or problems that we have at hand, we eventually end up dealing with a much bigger crisis. So insecurity, in my own view, in my own perspective, is being, you know, fueled by two major factors. The first is the declining quality of education and literacy in our society. When people are poorly educated, it becomes easier for them to be manipulated, you know, recruited into violent groups or used for insurgency and terrorism. I think I saw a content earlier this morning where, you know, they're saying they are recruiting certain people into the group, and I'm wondering, really? And again, I had to quickly, streamline my thought process to say that, yeah, it could happen because over here, morals have been swept under the carpet. You know, they can even sell their mother to get certain wealth and all of that. But the second factor is unemployment as well, because millions of young Nigerians are without jobs, opportunities, or even a sense of purpose. Idle minds become easy targets for criminal networks. That's the reason why they are saying they want to recruit. They will send certain money to you or something like that. You see bandits, you know, insurgents, you know, and political actors who exploit desperation for their own gain. So if these two issues are seriously, you know, addressed, I believe that we would see a significant reduction in violence, in adoption, in terrorism, in insurgency, in banditry, name it. When people have meaningful employment and are mentally equipped to raise, to resist manipulation, the attraction to criminality reduces, considerably, however we want to look at it. Now, regarding the proposed strike, I have mixed feelings. While I understand the frustration behind it, I also worry about the consequences in terms of schools that may shut down, businesses that may close, commercial activities that may be disrupted, government operation may slow down, but the economy will suffer for it. And ordinary Nigerians will once again bear much of the burden of the issue at hand. So from that perspective, I just feel that a nationwide strike may not necessarily solve the challenges at hand. Rather, I believe that there should be more strategic and targeted ways of, complaining or compiling, I don't know, I don't know what word to use right now to act with the urgency or at hand. I also believe that the government is not also doing enough in terms of communication with all that they are doing. Security matters are understandably a sensitive one in Nigeria and often classified as one, but there must still be a way to Nigerians, or to keep Nigerians rather informed. Citizens need reassurance that there is a clear strategy, measurable progress, and a coordinated effort to address insecurity. I feel that is something that we need to actually work on, because the National Orientation Agency as well and other government institutions should do more to engage citizens and explain what is being done behind the scenes. When people see results and understand the direction of government effort, maybe confidence will increase or increases. Personally, I do not fully support a nationwide strike. I fear it because it could create additional problems or challenges without necessarily stopping the activities of the bandits or kidnappers or even the insurgents. So instead, I would like for us to see a stronger pressure on government through more strategic measures that could compel decisive actions towards the issue at hand. What Nigerians want is simple. We want to feel safe in our homes, on the roads, in our schools, in our communities. The focus should be on practical solutions, stronger intelligence gathering, better policing, improved education, job opportunities, or job creation, a comprehensive strategy to just defeat this insurgency and bandits once and for all, because it has not become a culture. Look at this present administration, the previous administration, look at it. It has become a culture. And they are getting bolder and bolder. How do we move forward? Enough is enough. What's your take on this, sir?
I think you have said it all. You wake up in the morning, the news that you see is like you said, is very depressing. And again, it seems that life don't matter in Nigeria anymore. What we see is when they say somebody is kidnapped, people ask how many. If it is 2 or it is 3, how many were killed? Oh, 4 or 3. And no, that seems not to be the news. The news is always when they are above, when they are up to 40 and 50. And that's when people will not raise an alarm and say, oh, what should we do about it? I think the responsibility of security is in the hands of the government. I always say government are only elected for 2 purposes: to provide security and prosperity for a citizen. If you are not providing security and you are not making my life better than where it used to be, then you are a failed government. So we need to look at that processes, and security is key to prosperity. Because if you have prosperity and you don't have security, you will not be even to enjoy the prosperity that you have. Now, what happened before now? Festivity periods are times that Nigerians want to go to their villages, leave the urban cities. Just like Nigerians abroad will say they will leave their site, their country of residence to come to Nigeria. Now, that doesn't happen. Those abroad are afraid to come in because they will be kidnapped. Those in here are afraid to go to the village because they will be kidnapped. Inasmuch I say the government is culpable, but security is not just for the government alone. It's for everybody. There used to be an advert that said, I think one of those days that were growing up, they said, armed robber not be spirit, now man and woman like us. So we as citizens too, we should be able to identify people that are criminal elements. I can say that if it comes to kidnapping, if you look at the trend, if you look at the investigation by security agents, realize that there's always a collaboration with the people. The locals are the ones that give this. These people don't just come in there and kidnap. So there's a collaboration. So what it means is we must take responsibility on our own security, and not in taking arm or fighting them. It's making sure you report to the appropriate authority. And how safe am I if I report and the government will also be able to act on my report and get things done? It's becoming a business now. Yes. Because just yesterday I was reading in the news where a woman, a married woman in Edo State, said she was kidnapped and was to pay a ransom of 50 million. And the child is in Canada and was struggling to raise about 20 million, only to find that the mother was conniving with her lover and was found in an hotel in Delta State. So you see, it is now becoming, people are faking their kidnap. A deputy local government chairman, I think in one of the states, is it Ekiti, also fake his own kidnapping for government to pay ransom. So it's now becoming like a business. And because we are not seeing government having people responsible and accounted for their actions.
This one is not something that we should not point fingers at the government. We should point fingers at ourselves as well, because when we don't have contentment spirit, and that's where the morals that I feel there's a moral decadence in the country right now, where people are not actually paying attention to values anymore.
Everybody just look for survivor spirit.
Unfortunately, this is where I draw the curtains of the ship. I must say many thanks again for all that you have shared with us, for the insight, and of course we are hoping that for the government who are watching, or the people in the corridor of power who are listening to you, they'll be able to take what you have said and implement it into an action that will bring, future peace into the country. On this note, till I come your way on Thursday on this platform, remember to catch me on Inspiration FM at 5 p.m. 92.3, your drive time talk show. My name remains Kikelomo Atanda-Owo Abati. Bye now. Many thanks for watching.